Hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. This is Dr. Munir Musa, Volunteer Director of Global Forum for Teacher Educators. I warmly welcome you all. It's a proud moment for me to announce that we now have more than 9,200 members and about 10,200 followers. But we are not seeking numbers. We need your dedication and your sincerity. Before introducing our guest speaker, I would like to talk about toxic people. Now, you will find toxic people everywhere, at your workplace, in your surrounding, or maybe in your family. When I was researching about toxic people, I found more than 100 types of them. And now I would like to introduce three types of them. Number one, pleasing others. It is a traditional way of getting the affiliation. Relationship in which we need the affiliation are toxic. It means that if you are in a relationship and if other people want you to affiliate you, so there is some fake element available. So if relationship is pretending, so it means that you have to avoid those people who are giving you fake compliment. Jealous. These people can't see you happy. They will always pull your leg. And number three, dominate. These people want to control you, your life, and your emotions. Now, there are different other types of toxic people as well, and I can talk about that later on about their types and about their anatomy. But now, I would like to request our virtual assistant to introduce Karen.
My name is Mimi, and I am a virtual assistant at Global Forum for Teacher Educators. As a certified human behavior consultant and master trainer through the Insights Institute in Atlanta, Karen Wagon founded Teaching Our Youth, a staff and professional development group, in 2004. As a dynamic, passionate motivational speaker, trainer, and author, she has a proven ability to create and provide informative and interactive workshops focusing on educational team building, classroom behavior management, differentiated teaching, learning styles, and parenting. Her motivation is to empower and equip educators and parents with the tools to improve communication, increase productivity, reduce and conflict in our relationships. Karen's energetic presence, seminars, and workshops have assisted educators and parents in understanding the personalities of their children and apply this knowledge to teaching, parenting, and building positive relationships in their professional and personal lives. Karen's first book, My Three and Me, A Journey by Design, clearly defines and explains the four personality types in the DISC model of human behavior. Karen, we love you. Over to Dr. Munir Musa.
Thank you so much, Karen, for accepting my invitation to speak to the global educators across the world. Over to you, please.
Thank you so much, Dr. Monero. That was a very interesting introduction by a virtual assistant. So first of all, I want to thank Dr. Monero for inviting me to come and speak with you this morning. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you today, to know that through the power of the internet and this global forum, that we have the opportunity to reach out and touch so many people who work with children around the world. So today I want to talk to you about solving the people puzzle and how to parent by design. But before we get started, I wanted to share a little bit with you about how I came about this approach. So I have always been a strong-willed woman. I mean, you know, ask my mama. I have been a strong-willed person from the moment I was born. And then I gave birth to a strong-willed son. You know, that's the one my mama promised me. So I don't know if there's anybody online here with me today who had their mom say, you wait till you have kids, because Kyle was mine. And now Kyle was driven to do what he wanted to do, not necessarily what I wanted to do. Does anyone else have a child like that? I mean, feel free to put that information in the comments, so I know I'm not the only parent who gave birth to a strong-willed child that was probably a lot like them. But I knew from a very young age that I had my hands full. I knew at the time that Kyle was a toddler how strong-willed he was, because I would ask him not to do something and he would look right at me and do it. I remember a time in particular where we were just sitting in the courtyard of our apartment complex and we were blowing bubbles. So I was blowing bubbles and he was running around popping the bubbles as a toddler would do. Then he came to me and he wanted to blow the bubbles himself. Now at this point he was about 18 months old. So I gave him the wand. I was dipping it into the solution and giving it to him, and you know, he's trying to blow the bubbles and kind of drooling on himself a little bit. He was still such a small boy. Then he wanted to hold the solution and dip himself. Now, I knew I was taking a risk here. He was 18 months old. So I said to him, if you want to hold the bubbles, Kyle, you need to hold them tight and hold them straight so we don't spill the bubbles, because if we spill the bubbles, then, you know, we're done for the day. So I gradually gave him the container with the bubbles in it. He looked right at me and went like this. Dumped them right in front of me. And I knew at that point I had my hands full. I don't know if anyone else has gone through this, but I could truly feel the emotion just coming right and going right through the top of my head, you know? So what do you do about that? And that did not change, because even when he went to school, I can give you an example of even second grade. When he was in second grade, I went for a parent-teacher conference. And as I was sitting across the table from the teacher and they're showing me Kyle's portfolio of work that he had completed in second grade, I was already starting to notice that he was doing his work, but none of the coloring was done in second grade. Didn't color any of the color pages, would do the assignment, but if that assignment included coloring, he would not color the pages, because in his mind, there was no purpose in coloring. He just wanted to do the work. And so this was me beginning to see how strong-willed he could be. So, you know, my suggestion to the teacher was, well, can we just give him more work? Which of course they did. But at the same time, I was starting to experience that Kyle was only going to do what he wanted when he wanted. And if he didn't see value in the work, he wasn't going to do it at all. So that's how he would continue to challenge me. And so I was already struggling with this child who was not willing to conform or yield to authority. So in 2002, I actually heard a speaker speak at a business seminar. I was actually at a business seminar, and he was talking about different personalities and how to build relationships and meet the needs of my clients. And to be honest with you, my relationships with my clients were okay, but to be honest with you, my relationships at home, not so much. And as I was listening to the seminar, I truly felt like the speaker had been sitting in my driveway, listening to the interactions that had been going on in my home. Like, how did he know all of this stuff? Because it's human nature. It's human interactions. It's not right or wrong, but it's the different interactions and how we may perceive them. But I was so intrigued with what he shared that I truly needed to learn more. So I actually went and bought the books and on understanding personalities and understanding parenting. And, you know, that really helped me a lot to understand what was going on in my parenting relationships. But to be honest with you, it was just a book. I mean, I really struggled with I have the knowledge, but how do I apply the knowledge? I really was tripping up over that. So I actually went back and invested in the training. I finished the certifications, the basic, the advanced, and became a master trainer, and then wrote my book. But through all of this, I had learned so much that I have been sharing it with educators and parents ever since. I truly call what I'm going to be sharing with you today the big domino, okay? This is kind of the secret sauce. I had read a lot of parenting books, and I'm sure you have too, but the understanding of personalities was the game changer. Not only understanding personalities so I could adapt my parenting to my kids, but also understanding how my kids learned so I could adapt my teaching style to their learning style so I could actually support their academic success. So if you are ready to get started, I'm ready to start sharing with you information on understanding how to solve the people puzzle. So let's go into, I'm going to go into the screen share so we can get into this presentation.
Karen, if you can share the screen, please.
I will. Let's do that.
Thank you.
You got it. Here we go. All right, so everybody should have the handout. So this is kind of a follow along. I believe Dr. Munir had actually posted that. So you should have a handout for just some reference for yourself to be able to fill in the blanks and follow along. So I'm going to be sharing with you the nugget, what I call the cornerstone or nugget to the foundation of my parent coaching program that's called Parent by Design. So this is going to be the first nugget as we start looking at understanding different personalities. So at the top and bottom of the page, I want to go over the objectives. I know we probably had already done that with our with the intro, but you know what I want to cover with you today is how we can learn about different personalities based on the model that looks at pace and priority. Then I want you to be able to identify a child's personality and behavior traits based on these simple observations. Then we're going to learn the emotional internal needs that influence a child's behavior. We're also going to find out when these needs are not met, what are some of the disruptive behaviors that we may experience. And you know what? We tend to want to punish the disruptive behavior, but if we don't get to the internal emotional needs, in other words, why are they acting that way, that behavior will continue or escalate. And then I'm hoping that you will discover some tips on how you can meet these needs in advance so that we can reduce the stress and conflict. So on your handout, the top and bottom of the page, you'll see the words outgoing and reserved. Go ahead and circle those words, outgoing and reserved, because this is what we like to call our pace in life. Some people are active and outgoing. Other people are more passive and reserved. Now, outgoing people like to do just that. They like to act out and go. They are fast-paced individuals. Everything they do is fast. They walk fast, talk fast, eat fast, work fast. They're always in a hurry. They tend to be more positive and optimistic, finding that diamond in the lump of coal. They also tend to be more energetic and enthusiastic, cheering other people on. On the other hand, we have our folks that are a little bit more reserved. Now, the reserved personality just prefers a slower pace. They like to think about what they do before they do it. They think about what they say before they say it. They're a little bit more cautious and reluctant to jump into things right away until they're sure of the expectation or the outcome. It's not right or wrong, but it's different. So for our time together, I want to ask you, what is your pace in life? And you may be a little bit of both depending upon the situation. But those of you who feel as though you prefer a fast-paced, outgoing pace in life, I want you to put a check mark next to the word outgoing. And those of you who feel as though, you know what, I don't like to be rushed, it kind of stresses me out when things are going too fast, you are probably more reserved. So go ahead and put a check mark next to the word reserved. So we just looked at one observation that you can use when you're looking at your students as well. Are they more outgoing? These are the kids I call the bouncers. Or are they more reserved? And I call them the mosiers. Now let's take a look at another observation. On the left and right of the page, you're going to see the words task and the word people. Now, this is what I like to call our priority in life. In other words, how you spend your time will pretty much determine what your priority in life is. Some people are task-driven individuals. They are like fine-tuned, well-oiled machines. They go through life getting results. This is the list-making crowd. They make lists, they check things off the list. If they've done something in the day that wasn't on the list, sometimes we put it on the list so we can check it off the list so we can feel as though we've accomplished more. It's all about form and functions and plans and progress. Now, on the other side, we have our folks that are more people-oriented. Now, I know there are some people-oriented types online with me today that say, but I'm a list maker too. But then I typically ask them, but do you know where your list is? Because it's probably in a pile somewhere, or you forgot it somewhere. Because to the people-oriented folks, it's all about the relationships and interacting with others. You find people-oriented folks are more open with sharing their feelings and emotions. When they're happy, you know it. When they're sad, you know it. I mean, you can just kind of read their body language. And they truly are at their best when they're interacting with others. So let me ask you a question for our time together today. What is your priority in life? And you may be a little bit of both depending upon the situation. But if you had to choose 5149, how many of you feel as though you have had a good day when everything is checked off that list before you go to bed at night? You're probably more task oriented. Put a check mark next to task. And those of you who feel as though, I've got a list, but you know what? Someone just called and asked me to go to lunch and I am so out of here because you want to spend time with people. You are probably more people driven. And I want you to put a check mark next to people. So what I just shared with you is what I call 2 observations to be able to identify some personality traits without going through a full assessment. Now, of course, I've got the full assessments, but when you are working and interacting with the student, sometimes we don't have time to just go through a full assessment. So when we put together our pace and priority, this is what we call the DISC model of human behavior. The DISC model of human behavior. So what I want to do right now is go through each of the descriptive characteristics to help you identify personality traits. But before I move on to that, as you were checking off on your handout, whether or not you are outgoing or reserved, task or people, in the comments, would you be willing to share with me what predominant quadrant would be, let's say, your primary personality style? Now, for me, you've been online with me for a little bit so far. You can probably tell that I'm more fast-paced and outgoing, but I also focus on task over relationships. Now, not that I don't like the relationships. I like getting results with people, but if driven, I'm going to work with you for an outcome and a result, but I want to work with people for the result, if that makes sense. So if you could, in the comments, based on how you answered those 2 questions, whether or not you were outgoing or reserved, task or people, please put in there whether or not you'd be in the D quadrant, the I quadrant, the S quadrant, or the C quadrant. Now I'm sitting here as I'm looking aside, it's because I have my tablet here next to me. So I see Roland is saying D and C. All right, so definitely more task driven. I see that. All right. Anybody else? I'm trying to get some comments. And I know there's a lag when we're working online like this. So I will wait a couple seconds and see how other people's are going in. Patco is saying outgoing tasks. So you are more the dominant style or the D style. And we're going to go into that. Also saying I'm focusing on tasks. F for saying I'm D. A lot of D and C. Look at that. Look at that. That is great. So you can see how simple that I made this to be able to identify one of the 4 quadrants based on 2 observations. Now, we are a blend of all 4 of these personality styles to a greater or lesser degree. I never want someone to walk away feeling as though I have put you in a box, but you will probably connect with traits in 1 or 2 quadrants, but you are a blend of all 4 to a later or lesser degree. So I'm seeing C, and I'm seeing strive for balance. Oh, Don, yeah, Don, you do. I've known you for a long time. So thank you for joining us today. I'm seeing we have a lot of D personalities, C personalities. I have an I style personality. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. An S-style personality. The names are going so fast, so I'm having trouble catching up with everybody. So awesome. So you're getting it just by asking those 2 questions or 2 observations. When you are working with someone, you can probably identify one of these 4 style quadrants. So now let's take a look at each of the 4 styles. So the first one we want to look at is the outgoing personality that focuses more on tasks than people, is what we call the D style, what we just looked at. But the key word I want you to remember about the D style personality is they are dominant. They like to lead. They like to be in charge. They like to tell other people what to do. That is my particular predominant style. And so I was real good at delegating and telling people what to do until I realized not everybody wants to be told what to do. But you can find that very easily in your students, because these are the kids that are telling the other kids what to do. They're a little bit more on the bossy side. And sometimes they're coming to you and telling you what you need to do today. Okay. They have that dominant personality, a natural ability to lead and be in charge. A lot of times it can be tough to manage in the classroom. We may tend to want to suppress that behavior. But really, what I want you to do is, how can you cultivate that and develop that? Because honestly, that's little leadership. They are visionaries. They see what needs to be done to step up and take charge. But they are also direct. This is fill in the blank. So go right ahead and fill in this blank. This will be your resource for our time together. They are direct. This has a lot to do with their communication style. I have a very direct communication style. And sometimes it's misunderstood because I'm so direct. Sometimes it comes off as harsh or bossy. And so I have got to be cautious when I'm communicating with others. If I'm talking to another dominant style, they get me. But if I'm talking to somebody else, the perception can be a little harsh. The dominant style is also demanding. In other words, when we want it now. And I know I have a number of dominant personalities online with me today. And so you're probably already saying, you get it, we're demanding. We want it now. And sometimes I hear, I wanted it yesterday, why? Because we're fast-paced and task-driven. We want the result. We're also decisive. And I'm saying we're because this is my predominant quadrant. We are decisive. We can take a look at some information and make a decision so we can move on to the next thing. And we're also determined, strong-willed and determined. Now, I know I had that strong will, but I also know in working with other students that are strong-willed and determined, remember, they are strong-willed and determined to do what they want, not necessarily what we want. And so it's how we interact with them to navigate them so that we can get that result of getting that work accomplished, right? Because they are determined to do what they want. Now, the one thing I will say about this personality style, it can be a challenge in the classroom because they can kind of take over. It can also be a challenge parenting. And I don't know if anybody else is parenting this, but this was my firstborn, okay? And so it was hard. It was really, really hard. He wanted to take over the house. But the one thing I will say about that strong will and determination is they don't quit. Now, that's not easy as a parent because they don't quit. But I also know that in the world, when they get out into the world, if something doesn't work out, they are determined to find a way. In other words, they will reevaluate and get back at it. And those of you who have that dominant personality on with me today, you get it because that's how you're wired, okay? And they are doers. They are doers. They want to get things done so they can move on to the next thing. Of course, they're fast-paced, task-driven, get my work done and do it all so I can move on to the next task. The needs. Oh, let me talk to you about the likes. Let me take this away a point. One more thing I want to share with you is what these personalities like. Now, for the dominant personality, they like to win. I mean, they are probably the most competitive style that we'll be working with today. And I know I've got a bunch of you on here. Dear, someone says, was it to me? Oh my gosh, the names are going so fast. D is also for dear. Oh dear is more like it, right? Yes. Yes. Oh dear. But they like to win. I mean, they are just very competitive. They need to be the first ones done their work. They need to be the first ones done in line. And, I'm not quite sure what age students you're working with, but they are driven to be the best. They also like to plan for the future. They're always looking ahead as being visionaries. They also like results, getting results. And when you are teaching them, if they don't see a life application to what you're teaching them, they don't always want to do it. And sometimes it's not just the grade. I need to know how I'm going to be using this material, how this is going to affect me for them to truly engage in the learning. And they like new ideas. They don't like doing the same thing over and over again. Look, they'll do it. They're fast-paced, task-driven. They will get the work done, but they're not always retaining what they're learning because it's just like busy work. So be cautious when you're interacting with them in the classroom. And I'm sharing a little bit of some teaching styles as well as parenting. So now let's take a look at the needs. The needs of the dominant personality are challenge, choice, and control. Fill that in your handout. Challenge, choice, and control. These are their internal emotional needs. If they are not being challenged, they're going to become a challenge. And if they don't have choice and control, you will experience defiant behavior. Can I get a raise of hands of everybody in the comments of those of you who have experienced defiant behavior? I mean, blatant defiant behavior, because I certainly have defiant behavior. So I needed to adapt my interactions with the dominant personality style to give choices so they felt as though they had a level of control so that I could reduce that conflict that we were having with the defiant behavior. Is anyone able to connect with me on that? Because experience that defiant behavior can really throw us off. 10% of the general population is high in that dominant style. Now, it looked like I had a lot of dominant folks on with me today, and I'm happy to see that, because I know we're going to have a really good time together because we get each other, right? But only 10% of the general population. I'll be honest with you, this is the smallest percentage of all 4 of the styles that I'm talking about today. And if you are working in a classroom setting, you will find that it only takes a couple of these kids to really toss it off for you, okay? Toss you off balance because they come in and want to take over and control. As a dominant personality myself, I liked choice and control. But let me tell you what I wasn't good at. I wasn't real good at giving choice. I was more of a directive. I was giving directive. And then when I was getting pushback from a dominant style because I was giving directive, I needed to adapt what I was doing so that I could reduce that conflict. So in other words, I needed to offer more choices within my boundaries so that student felt as though they had a level of choice and a level of control. So just one tip when it comes to working with that. And I don't know if anybody else feels the same way. Maybe you learned about offering choices long before I did, but my natural style is to tell people what to do, right? But I found that it wasn't working. I was in conflict. And so when I understood how Kyle was wired, that he wanted the choices just like I wanted the choices, I needed to adapt my interactions so I could reduce the conflict with him. So that's great. Yeah, some people I'm getting in the thumbs up there. Yeah. So you guys are getting, let me tell you, you know these kids, right? You spend all day trying to manage this behavior in the classroom. And if you're parenting this can be a challenge as well. So I really had to learn to adapt my interactions. The 3 pillars I talk about in the parenting blueprint, my parent coaching program, is number 1, to become aware of the personalities, then be able to adapt your interactions, which is some of the tips that I just shared with you. Okay. So that we can reduce that conflict. Okay. Aware, adapt, and apply the right strategies, not a one-size-fits-all approach, so that we can make a connection with the student so they feel valued and understood. Little sidebar on that one about the parenting blueprint. So now let's take a look at our other outgoing personality. Let me check some of these notes here. Oh, good. You guys are enjoying this. I am glad. Thank you. Yeah. Yes. Well, someone is saying control over an online class isn't a necessity. Yeah. You know, when we're teaching online, I think that's Uma. Thank you for bringing that up. It's going to be a different model of what we're teaching right now. And I just really want to wish you all the best in trying to manage all of this in an online model, that really can be a challenge to keep these kids engaged, because when we look at all 4 of the styles, they need to be engaged in different ways. They truly need to be engaged in different ways. So thanks for these insights. Thank you so much. And I hope you don't mind. I'm going back and forth with checking out your comments. So the other outgoing personality that focuses more on people than task is what we call the I style. And some of you had noted that you had that I style, but the one key word I want you to remember is the I style is inspiring. That keyword, they are inspiring. I mean, they just have this natural ability to stimulate creativity and energy in other people, probably because it's their energy that they have themselves. They're always cheering people on. They are influencing. They are influencing. And you know how they influence people? Because they just keep talking and talking and talking and talking. And some of you can probably reflect back on students that had that inspiring style because they follow you around and they just don't stop talking to you. It just until you're finally like, okay, it's time to sit down so we can get to work. I mean, they just keep talking and they're interactive. This has a lot to do with their learning style. This is not the sit down lecture to crowd. These are the kids that need to actually be involved with their learning. They're very impressive. Energy, ideas, creativity, thinking outside the box. And I had mentioned that they want to be involved. They want to be involved in their learning. They will retain more of what they did than what they heard. And they have great imaginations. Always thinking outside the box. You can probably reflect back and think on some of these students that you have taught in the past, and they're always thinking of new and creative ways of doing things, new and creative ways of things to be done in the classroom, new and creative ways to learn lessons or to reflect back lessons. They are so much fun and so much energy. But these are things they like. The I-style personality just likes to be liked. It's all about the people. They want everybody to like them. They truly do enjoy expressing their ideas and their feelings to the point where you may have students that have been very compliant as you are teaching. And then when it comes time and you say, do you have any questions? They raise their hand and the question they asked had nothing to do with what you just taught, but they waited their turn so that they could then talk, right? So some of you may have experienced that. They bring up stuff that had nothing to do with anything, but they just wanted to tell you. They just wanted to tell you, and they love being in front of a group. And what is the classroom? A built-in audience. And so you may find that you're going to get a lot of that fun energy, and they love activities. Fun activities. That's how they learn. That's how they engage and connect with you. But the needs of the inspiring style. Oh, I'm loving some more I words I'm getting here. Innovative. Yes. Definitely innovative. This is great. Thank you for sharing some of your feedback. Oh, and I'm glad you're enjoying the session. Thank you so much. But the needs of the inspiring style are recognition, approval, and popularity. Recognition, approval, and popularity. If they are not getting recognition, if they're not getting approval from those around you, if they're not feeling popular within their circle, you will experience illogical behavior. Can I get a thumbs up or raise the hands of those of you who have experienced illogical behavior from your students? I mean, they do stuff and you're sitting here looking at them thinking, what were you thinking? What were you thinking? When in reality, they weren't really thinking. It was kind of an impulsive, there's another I word. It was an impulsive thing that they did to do what? To get the attention. So if we are able to meet those needs in advance in our day-to-day interactions, they will feel valued and appreciated. In other words, they feel as though she gets me. He gets me. My teacher gets me. They understand me by engaging with them. They are fun and inspiring. They are free-spirited kids. The last thing we want to do is put them in a box when it comes to education, because that's not how they learn. They learn through what they do and how they do it. So and let me share with you, 25 to 30% of the general population. I'm getting the thumbs up. Yeah, you've all experienced that illogical behavior. Oh boy, right? What am I supposed to do with this? But 25 to 30% is high in the inspiring style. So you can see it's a lot higher than the dominant style. But these kids have a lot of fun and a lot of energy. A couple of tips when it comes in the classroom is they don't focus for a long period of time. And if you have this inspiring style, you know what I'm talking about. Because they are fast-paced but people-driven, not focused so much on the task, their brains seem to bounce a lot from one thing to the next. So I always suggest teaching in what I call acts. Teach a little bit, take a break, and then collaborate, have them collaborate with each other, what they just heard, they learned, and then teach a little bit, take a break. And so this way, their brain has an opportunity to maybe take in some information, but then talk, because you know they want to talk to somebody, but give them some structure into a conversation of how they can discuss what they just learned with someone, and then you teach some more. We call that teaching an act. And then when you're interacting with them, give them that recognition, approval, popularity, because that is what they want to hear from you. They act out because they want your attention. But if you're giving them attention in advance because you've built that relationship with them, you will not experience that illogical behavior. When we experience illogical behavior, sometimes we have to go to a disciplinary measure, and then it takes a while to get the rest of the class back on task because I just needed to address a student due to illogical behavior. And I think a lot of you have experienced that in the classroom as well. All right. So we just looked at our two outgoing personality styles, the dominant and inspiring. Now we're going to take a look at our more reserved style personalities. And as I said before, the reserved style prefers a slower pace. They want to think about what they do before they do it. Think about what they say before they say it. They're a little bit more cautious and reluctant to get involved in things right away until they're sure of the expectation or the outcome. They tend to be more of our discerning thinkers, deep thinkers beyond the surface. They just think a lot deeper. But the reserved personality that focuses on people is what we call the S style. But the one key word I want you to remember about the S style is they are supportive. They are supportive. They kind of operate behind the scenes, making sure that everybody's needs are taken care of. They are the friends. I mean, they don't need to be liked by everybody, but you will see them in groups together, and they just will have friends for life. I mean, they'll make friends and they'll have them for life. They are supportive individuals. They are also steady and stable. This has a lot to do with their pace in life. One pace in life, right, is a little bit more reserved. So you already can tell that I'm the outgoing, fast-paced personality, right? So my daughter, who's my third born, is a classic textbook S-style personality. Everything about this is her. You could look this up and see her picture. That's how she fits this. Anna has one speed in life, one speed, and it's like second gear. So y'all know I kind of run in fourth gear all day long, right? So I give birth to this child who's in second gear all day long, and I just don't get it. Like, I can't get her to go any faster. And if I do try to get her to third or fourth gear, you know what happens? It stops. It stops. I mean, literally stops. And then it stops. And then when she was younger, she stopped and cried. So I don't know if anybody else is experiencing students that just get overwhelmed with the pace in life, that then they are done. They just are done. They have to stop. They have to pull back, regroup, and get back at it at their pace. It's not right or wrong. It's different. But when you are interacting with a student that is wired differently than you, because she is my polar opposite, if you look at the model, I needed to adapt the pace in our environment to meet her needs so that we could, number one, have a better relationship because she knew I understood what she needed and she could be more successful at what she was doing. They are the sweetest kids you want to meet. They truly love to serve. And at times they're kind of shy. I mean, these kids come to school to see you and to see their friends. They truly love to do that. Now, these are things that they like. They like to be accepted. You know, they don't have to be the center of attention, but they just want to be accepted and need to be engaged in a group. And so if you find that someone is kind of a loner and it's hard for them to connect because they are kind of shy, see if you can't get them connected with a group of friends or in an extracurricular activity where they'll make friends, because they're not real outgoing to make friends quickly, but what will keep them engaged is to be accepted and be part of a group. They also like teamwork and cooperation. This has a lot to do with their learning style. They don't necessarily learn well alone. And I recognize this in my daughter. Her learning style is more collaborative. I find that when Anna was working alone, she could read the information and maybe regurgitate it back to you in a minute, but she wasn't retaining it. She wasn't retaining it because it didn't become part of a personal experience. So I found in working with her that we needed to interact, tell the stories, do things together, have more discussion. Then she remembered that experience of what we talked about, not just reading the book and taking notes. So I don't know if anybody had that S personality that they can connect with that as well. And they truly like a predictable routine. They are creatures of habit and prefer that predictable routine. Somebody was saying here, was that Alina? Yeah, students with reserved personalities take time to get connected. Truly, that's absolutely right. So, you know, a lot of times in the classroom, we're very busy putting out the fires maybe with the dominant and inspiring kids because of all the energy that they bring. And sometimes I find that these kids become the invisible kids. You know why? Because they're compliant. They don't give us a hard time, but they still need a connection with you. They still need a connection with you, or they just feel sad and unappreciated, which leads us to the needs. So let's take a look at the needs of that supportive style. The needs are appreciation, security, and affirmation. Appreciation, security, and affirmation. And if those needs are not being met, they may become a sucker In other words, getting sucked into situations or around people to try and have that void, that hole in their heart met. Appreciation, security, and affirmation. And like I said, you're not putting out the fires with them. They're very quiet, very reserved. They do their work, go on to the next thing. But we really need to be intentional about making a connection with that student so they do feel valued and appreciated in your environment. The supportive style is a polar opposite to my predominant style. I am predominantly the dominant style. And then we have the S style is across the model as you look at it. That's my polar opposite. It was not easy for me to adapt to, I'm being transparent with you right now, to adapt to words of appreciation and affirmation. See, my dominant style is do what you need to do. Why do I need to stroke you to do what you need to do? We just got to get it done, right? And I'm driven in that way. But then I found that I was losing connection, right? So when I found that I adapted to meet the needs of the supportive style, because my daughter is predominant style, my middle son has got a lot of this style, and my husband is predominantly this style, that if I did not adapt, I would not have relationships with these people. Because to them, I was just getting things done. I wasn't paying attention to what? The relationship. They're relationship driven, I'm task driven. So be aware of those things. So I found that when I began adapting to meeting those emotional needs with thank you, first of all, was, the easiest one to do. Thank you. Or I appreciate the way, or I noticed how you are such a good friend and how you care for others and how you're always looking after that. I would affirm them on specific tasks or characteristics about who they were, not just necessarily good job. Then they started to feel appreciated and wanted to spend more time with me rather than me just be more task driven and disconnect. So I don't know if that's making sense with anybody. So that's the one thing I want you to remember about that. And the percentage, you're going to love this. The percentage of the supportive style is 30 to 35%. It is the highest percentage of all four of the styles. Woo, right? They are the nicest, sweetest people, and I am grateful, and I thank the Lord for that, right? We don't have 30 to 35% of the dominant styles because we'd all be infighting and killing each other. But anyway, they are just the sweet, supportive style. This is the servant heart that comes with the supportive style. And so I'm sure you can think of those students and you just get this warm feeling in your heart because they are just sweet, kind kids, just sweet, kind kids. So I'm going to take a look at some of these notes here, just so I'm catching up with you. Yeah, we have a lot to learn from our children. And Nelia, I hope I said your name right. You're absolutely true. This has really transformed me of what, sometimes we see life in our own lens. We see life because this is how we're wired, right? And you look around and say, how come everybody else doesn't think and act like me? And then when I started to understand this information and be able to look through life through their lens, wow. I mean, I was able to become not only more balanced as a parent and as a person, but truly be able to develop relationships that were long lasting because people could then be valued and understood. Yeah, sucker is a strong word. I understand that. But let me tell you, for some of the S personalities, they know they are. They'll be the first ones to tell you. And let me tell you why. The hardest word for them to say is no. They say yes to everything. Do you think I was a little challenged with that with my daughter? You betcha. We had to have some long talks about saying no and not doing things that were going to compromise her character and her integrity. They're people pleasers. They are people pleasers. And it was very difficult for her to say no. She didn't want to let anybody down or disappoint anybody. When she got into college and even working, taking extra shifts and doing extra things because she couldn't say no to people. And she was overwhelmed with everything that she committed herself to because she couldn't say no to anybody. So we had to talk about boundaries, how to set boundaries, and it's okay to say no. Look, I don't have a problem with saying no. If I can do it, I will. If I can't do it, I'm going to tell you. I don't have a problem with that. But the supportive personality did, because they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, let them down, disappoint anybody. So thank you for bringing that to my attention, because it is a hard word. I felt the same way when I first started presenting it that way. So now let's take a look at our other personality style to round out the 4 quadrants. Now, this is the more reserved style personality. Take the time, think things through. Focuses more on task than people is what we call the C style. But the key word I want you to remember is they are cautious. They are stop, look, and listen. Okay. They are not jumping into things right away. They are thinking things through. And sometimes the perception of a child who's in deep thought is that they're not doing their work or they're not productive, when in reality, they're just more of the analytical thinkers. They're in their heads. And what I found in the classroom is that sometimes I need to find a way to draw that out, because sometimes it just keeps cycling in their head and it's not coming out of their mouth and it's not going onto the paper, right? They are cautious. They are cautious. They are calculating. In other words, they're weighing out all the options of what can be done, but they're not strong decision makers. So it just keeps processing in their head. Now they're competent. They know that they know what they know, because they've done their homework. They've done their research. They've got their facts. In fact, I have a lot of you on here with me that are the dominant and cautious styles, so you can connect with that. And they're conscientious. I mean, they know the rules and they follow the rules. You know what frustrates them in school? When other kids don't follow the rules, right? You know why? They know, and my kids have got this in their blend style as well. And it would be like, Mom, why do they act like this? They know they're not supposed to. And I'm like, well, because they think they can get away with it. But it's frustrating, because when kids don't follow the rules, it disrupts their learning opportunity, right? Because a teacher is now trying to manage classroom management with the child, and it's taking away for their learning. These kids come to school to learn in traditional learning environments. That's how school was designed, was for these types of kids. And they're contemplative thinkers. In other words, they're thinking through lots of different things, and they are careful. This is measure twice, cut once. I do not want to make a mistake. I do not want to make a mistake. And these are things they like. I mean, they just got to be right. They like to be right. And because my oldest son that I talked to you about that had that dominant style is dominant and cautious. And I know I have a bunch of you who said that you were the DC style blends as well, or CD blends as well. They got to be right. And even if they're not right, no, really, they are right. They're going to tell you that they're right, and they will explain to you why they are right, because in their minds, what they have done is a calculated decision to do what they do. They got to be right, okay? And they also need to know what is expected of them. So that's when I say they're deep thinkers, and we need to present information in a different way to them, because they need to know what is expected. So we need to give them clear instructions so they know what is expected, so that they can do it right. So sometimes we'll see a student that's sitting there and they're looking a little apathetic, maybe a little lazy. They're not getting their work. They're not getting started, when really they're in their heads trying to think of, what am I supposed to do so that I can do it right? So that I can do it right. The needs of the cautious style are quality answers, value, and excellence. Notice I said quality answers. Because if it's not a good answer, they're going to ask you another question, okay? They are going to ask you another question. Quality answers, value, and excellence. They are perfectionist. So understand, when you are working with that child, they are going to be harder on themselves than anyone else would ever be, because they are in their heads and they are such perfectionists. And so some of the things that I had to guide through the cautious style is just helping them to understand that they're not perfect. I know they want to be, but they're not. And that it's okay to make a mistake, because we can learn from that mistake and we can become better because of it. But when they are doing their work, sometimes, you'll see the kids who crumple up the paper and throw it. They got to start everything all over again, because it's got to be done a certain way. And it's got to be right in their minds. It's got to be right. Quality answers, value, and excellence. And if those needs are not being met, you will experience cold and withdrawn behavior. Cold and withdrawn behavior. In other words, they just pull back. They disengage. They got to process things in their own head, and they're not coming back to the table until they are ready. So I'm looking over here to see some of the comments. Yes, confident is a good one. I like that. Is that Muscat? I think that. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, and thank you for all the wonderful comments too. You guys are so kind. Yes. So Bogdan is saying, my type of students is the demanding type. You love that. Maybe you can connect with that, right? You connect with that style. You understand it, and you can help, and you can drive with them. So this is very good. I appreciate your feedback on that. So let's look at the percentage. The percentage of the cautious style in the general population is 20 to 25%. These are more of our analytical thinkers. Our analytical thinkers are logical brains, okay? They're not into the emotion. It's very black and white for them. It's not right or wrong. It is just different. It is just different. So what I've just done is I have just shared with you some characteristics of the 4 different personality styles. And some of the things that I want to remind you, I guess, with this cautious style is because they are so analytical, you may find that they're very strong academically because they strive for the perfection. And again, with all these styles and connecting with them, there is not one style that's right or wrong. They are just different. But if we are interacting with each other and with our students, and we see a behavior that we can't understand, it's because they see life in a different way. When we see the disruptive behaviors like the defiance or illogical behavior, or a student getting sucked into doing things that they shouldn't be doing, or someone becoming cold and withdrawn, we tend to want to punish that behavior or discipline that behavior. But if we are not looking to what is the root, that internal motive and drive, the 3 needs for each of the styles, if we don't adapt our interactions to meet those needs, those disruptive behaviors will probably continue or escalate because the child does not feel valued and understood in your presence. I want to keep an eye on my time. Oh, I am getting over on time. So I just want to be respectful of your time. So remember, everyone is a unique blend of all of these 4 parts. And I think some of you are probably starting to see it just by asking those 2 questions in the beginning about your pace and priority. You are starting to see your predominant style blend because, for instance, if your style didn't exist, you will probably default to a secondary style. So that helps you to understand what your style blend is. But what I wanted to do today was share with you what is considered the foundation of what I teach to educators and what I coach parents on through the parenting blueprint. Everything else gets built upon this model. If we don't understand how a child is wired, how do we know the appropriate interaction or response to have to that behavior? So before we wrap up, I just want to do one more exercise with you. And I know we're a couple minutes over. I know everybody's in their own space today, but while you're sitting there, I want you to kind of cross your arms. I don't know if you see, cross your arms and kind of put them across your chest as you're just relaxing with your arms crossed. But I want you to take notice. How are your arms crossed? Now, I actually have my left arm tucked under my right arm. Some people may have their right arm tucked under their left arm. But what I want you to do right now is I want you to unfold your arms and do it the opposite way. So now I kind of got to put my right arm over my left arm. That took a little bit of work. So how does that feel to you? Because to me, it feels a little weird. It feels a little weird. I kind of want to go back to what I was doing because that was just what was comfortable for me. So yeah, I can fold them, but it just feels a little awkward. Now I want you to do this. One more thing. I want you to fold your hands like this. Intertwine your fingers. Now I want you to notice where your thumbs are. Now, right now I have my right thumb on top of my left thumb. Right thumb on top of my left thumb. Some of you may have your left thumb on top of your right. It's not right or wrong. It's just different. But what I want you to do right now is unfold your hands and do them the opposite way. So now I need to make my left thumb on top of my right thumb. And I think I have too many fingers and it feels really weird. Now, can I do it? Yeah. Does it feel comfortable? Heck no, it feels weird to me. I kind of want to go back to what's natural for me, right? So this is my point to this. No one taught you how to cross your arms in a particular way. It's just what's comfortable for you. No one taught you how to fold your hands a certain way. It's what's comfortable for you. When I ask you to do it differently, it feels a little weird, doesn't it? Why? Because that's not how you've been doing it. That's not how you were wired. No one taught you how to fold your arms or clasp your fingers this way. That's just what's natural for you. Your personality style that you were born with is what's natural to you. Now, as I ask you to begin adapting your interactions to meet the needs of students, it's going to feel a little awkward. It's going to feel a little weird. And you may want to go back to your style. So I always encourage parents and educators to be intentional with your interactions. Think before you respond and not just react in the emotion so that we can reduce the conflict, increase productivity, and maintain relationships with our kids. So where do we go from here? Well, I hope you had an opportunity through this presentation to understand your personality style blend. Understand your child style blend, whether it's in your home as a parent or the kids that you're teaching. And then look at some strategies on how to adapt your interactions to meet those internal emotional needs so we can reduce the conflict, increase productivity, and develop better relationships. Because you know what? In the end, we all just want to be valued and understood. We all just want to be valued and understood. So I know I went over by a few minutes. I want to thank Dr. Munir for allowing me to do this. If you'd like more information on some of the trainings that we offer or even becoming certified, as a human behavior specialist, please feel free to reach out to me at Karen@teachingouryouth.com. And I also have the website, teachingouryouth.com, for more information on what we do. I have really enjoyed this time together. And Dr. Munir, thank you for allowing me to go over a little bit. But sometimes I get into the storytelling part of it, right? But thank you so much, everybody. I want to thank you for the comments, and I'm really seeing that you were getting it. You were getting it, and that was the power in what we shared today. So thank you so much, Dr. Munir, for allowing me the opportunity to share with everyone today.
Thank you, Karen, for the wonderful presentation. And indeed, it was fruitful, and there were lots of activities as well. And I hope that you will be having a strong association with us in the future as well. Thank you so
Yes.
much.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.